Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming at this late afternoon on Friday. And thank you, Stanford, for hosting us. I'm Miki Sode. I'm the Commercial Innovation Program Manager.
Hi, my name is Liz Warren, and I'm an Associate Program Scientist for CASIS. And yeah, we're very happy to be here today, and we'll tell you about some cool stuff, and then hopefully have some time at the end for questions.
Great. Okay. So let's start off with some short videos as an introduction to CASIS and International Space Station National Lab. Right.
The International Space Station is the most unique laboratory that exists. There are things that you can learn, things that you can do in space that you just can't do on the Earth.
The space station really provides an opportunity to explore, for example, say medical applications.
The aging and the osteoporosis and muscle wasting conditions are greatly accelerated in microgravity.
Understanding those phenomena allow us to look at how we can improve treatment of disease here on Earth.
What we have is the capability to affect people's quality of life.
But it's not just drug companies that can benefit from experiments or research in space, but it's a host of industries across the board.
But it wasn't always easy to get there.
Historically, access to space was limited to companies and corporations, which were selected by the government, and what we lost was the true creativity of so many innovative smaller companies that really didn't understand how to get to space.
When we were doing the reauthorization of NASA, we wanted to expand the opportunities to different areas of experimentation and also different entities.
Recognizing the untapped potential for commercial access to space, in 2005, Congress declared the U.S. portion of the International Space Station a national laboratory.
Essentially, it opened up opportunities for research that could be done on the space station that would benefit us here on Earth.
Everyday companies and everyday researchers and everyday people can think about using the space station. That's a fundamental change that was never allowed before.
Today, we offer opportunities to the researcher that never existed before.
Whether it be seed funding to help support the actual project,
To access to experts to create hardware.
that rocket ride up, the on-station time with the astronaut as your lab technician, what we're doing is really making it as easy as possible for people here on Earth to do space-based research without becoming space experts.
Our part of the mission is to help guide these non-traditional innovative users from their traditional labs here on the ground to a very unusual and important asset in space. The ISS National Lab has space versions of hardware that you can often find in laboratories here on the ground.
Everything from even animal habitats,
Plant growth chambers,
Freezers,
3D printers,
Earth observation windows,
incubators,
furnaces,
the centrifuges.
microscopes.
the list goes on and on. So we're working with companies that you would never imagine, and they would never have imagined using the International Space Station, and they're seeing great results from that.
And the International Space Station offers researchers like me an opportunity to find the key variables.
It's helping us to pinpoint therapeutic molecules.
The space station really provides us a unique opportunity, a unique environment to do some basic and fundamental research that allows us to develop products better.
The ISS allows us to do a series of experiments in weightlessness that will have profound impacts for life on Earth.
Having a U.S. national lab in space has allowed for the formation of a wide range of companies. It's creating a new economy, a sustainable marketplace that has services, commercial products, competition. There's no limit to what we can be doing in a few years.
All right. So now let's go over a little bit about what is the International Space Station and the history of it, and then how that's related to CASIS or what we do. So International Space Station, the construction started in 1998, and so that's when the first module started. This is the partnership between 5 space agencies representing 16 countries. So the 5 space agencies are European space agencies, NASA, of course, Russian space agencies, JAXA, the Japanese, and Canada. And it costed about $150 million US. And the size is as big as the football field. And it travels the Earth about, every 90 minutes. So we have 16 orbit around every day. And it's at the altitude of 250 miles from the ground. So ISS became fully operational as of November of 2000, year 2000. And so since then, it's been 17 years of continuous human presence up in space. So there's always somebody up in space. I think it's very cool. And we have a big science capability up in space. We have 4 labs that's put together by United States, Europe, Japan, and Russia. There has been about 2,200 experiments done up in the space station, and 230 people visited ISS in the last 17 years. And why is International Space Station significant, especially if you compare to Space Shuttle program? Space Shuttle was only in orbit for about 2 weeks, but ISS is continuously there, so you could run a longer duration experiments up in space, and sometimes that is very important to the project objective. So in 2005, US Congress designated that the US portion of the International Space Station to be a nation's newest national lab, and that means it enables access to everybody, like researchers or commercial entities, to access the platform for researching innovation up in this unique environment available in a space station. So in other words, it's important to recognize that it's not rocket science anymore. The space is not just for NASA or say fighter jet pilot or a rocket scientist. It's actually available for everybody, and that change in the thinking is, I think, is a significant. And the Congress's objective was to make that available to us. And so in 2011, then NASA appointed CASIS to be the sole manager of the International Space Station as a national lab. So that's where CASIS comes in. And so CASIS is here to help commercial entities, academic researchers, and other nonprofit organizations to bring your project up into International Space Station to conduct any research projects. And did you actually know that you can see International Space Station crossing over your head? There is an app, and you can download that from that URL, the spotthespacestation.nasa.gov. It's actually very fun. You do that all the time. And the next time I think that the ISS is coming in this area is next Thursday? 12th. So next Thursday at like about 7:45. So if you just look at the sky, then you will see that there is a small like star-like dot crossing over the sky, and it's slower than shooting stars. Yes, but a little bit faster than aircraft, so that's how you can tell. All right. So what is the Center for the Advancement of Science in Space? So we are part 501c3 nonprofit, non-government organization that manages International Space Station as a national lab, and our goal is to maximize the utilization of the International Space Station. While NASA's activities on International Space Station are primarily focused on exploration, long-duration space flight, or deep space missions. But our focus is on improving lives on Earth. So use that unique environment and for the project that will benefit lives on Earth. Of course, there is a little bit of overlap, but that's, I think it's a very good distinction that you can make. Now, CASIS' objective is right here. There are three parts. We would like to maximize the utilization of the ISS and then the space environment to pursue groundbreaking science, technology, and innovation that is not possible on Earth. The second one is to advance the nation's leadership, innovation, and commercialization in the space sector. And lastly, leveraging the space station to inspire the next generation of space explorers through the ISS STEM opportunities. So, and we actually have 5 different areas of focus that's aligned with those objectives, and they are the life sciences, physical and material sciences, remote sensing, technology development, and education. And we're gonna go over that. But before that, let's get to the beginning. Like, why would you do anything in space? I think that's a very good question to ask. Now, research in space provides a paradigm shift that if you do a research there, then it reveals features of terrestrial life and physical process that cannot be seen or manipulated on Earth. And if you think about it, from the time that the cosmic matter gathered together in a gravitational force to form an Earth, and before even any single cell organism was formed, we've been bounded by this gravity, right? And I think many of you could resonate with me that it's sort of visceral calling for human being to learn about who we are and what are we doing here in this universe. And I think that's the basic of all science. But to think about that, I think it's important to step back a little bit sometimes and think about, to have another look at ourselves. So realizing that we are gravity-bounded creatures, and also then if we remove that component, the essential component that is gravity, then what are we, you know, and where are we going, and what happens? And with that knowledge, what can we do with that? That is, I think, is a very important question that ISS can give you an opportunity as a platform to explore that question. So, and I would say there are big 3 value propositions that ISS has to offer. One is, as I mentioned, the microgravity environment. Now, this picture is a little bubble in a microgravity environment. It's just water droplet, but astronaut decided to spin it, and so there, if this rotation caused some bigger bubbles to be outside and smaller one into to the center, which is very unique in microgravity environment. The second one is extreme conditions. So I'm going to go into that in detail more, but the structural degradation that happens because of the exposure to the extreme condition in the space is tremendous. And so people want to test their materials in that harsh environment. The third point is the vantage point. So the ISS, again, is rotating 250 miles above the Earth, and you could see different patterns of Earth from that vantage point. So this one, the picture right here is captured by a hyperspectral imager for the coastal ocean, and this is a massive algae growth in Western Lake Erie in September 3rd of 2011. So that kind of view you cannot see from if you're just standing on a lakeside, right? So people use this vantage point for tracking maritime security, weather, agricultural productivity, energy, urban development, fishery, national security, deforestation, sustainable fishery, like you name it. There are so many things that you can learn from that vantage point of 250 miles. So why space again? And let's talk about microgravity. Microgravity, or rather gravity, is a controllable variable on the ISS. I think, I think it's very, it doesn't occur to you, I guess, too often that microgravity is playing a role in experiment that you're working on right now. Because it's so, as I said, we are gravity-bound people. It's very hard to realize that even that is an assumption, but that gravity is a variable, and on ISS you could have a control over that and test your hypothesis. So we use microgravity environment in life science context in many different ways, but one is accelerated disease models. So microgravity actually affects organisms from gene level up to organisms level, right? So it alters gene expression, how individual cells, how it works, the cell signaling. So that is very unique. The whole organisms and cells just respond to that. And in some cases, that these challenges mimic the onset of the progression of diseases on Earth. And the classic cases are some muscle atrophy or bone degeneration and immune dysfunction. And that is associated with aging. So for example, many experiments have been launched to study osteoporosis because you lose bone a lot faster in microgravity environment than on Earth. So, and the second bullet point is the drug development. So if you can see, there is a full panel picture over there that is comparing the protein crystals grow in space and on Earth. So in space, because there is no gravity, the crystal can form more uniformly and bigger. And that is good to bring that protein crystal down to Earth and put it in an X-ray or neutron crystallography to look at the 3D structure of the protein and better understand the structure, so you could design, you could learn more about how the ligand and other protein bind to that particular protein, and so that you could learn better about the whole process of disease cascade, or how, when you are trying to design a drug, then you can better target, you can better design your drug to target specific binding site. Okay. So one interesting example is that with SpaceX 12 launch that happened in August, we had a experiment with Michael J. Fox Foundation, and we did this protein crystal growth up in space for the hope of finding a potential cure for Parkinson's disease. Another study that often happens is that regenerative medicine, and we've launched some rodents to study how the fracture wound heal up in space without any gravitational force, because I guess because if you are on Earth, then let's say if you broke your leg, then you're loading that. But if there is, and then that loading induces the bone healing, but if you remove that loading, then how exactly does it happen? So it's a kind of deeper dive into the wound healing. That's the experiment that we did in with the SpaceX 10 launch in February 2017. And then the crop science. So, and then plant biology actually has been we have a long history of that in space. But how does plant grow? Because we have to think about potentially feeding the Martian guy, Mike Watney, sometime, right? And so, and we have to study how we can grow a lettuce. I think that happened last year, and to potentially feed the astronaut going to Mars someday. But also, how does plant react to a very stressful condition? And maybe if we know, then we could design a plant or some aid to help plant to grow in a very poor condition to help study about the agriculture in hard conditions. Okay, now I'm going to shift gear to the physical sciences. I touched upon the protein crystal growth too, but another interesting study that we've done with pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly in I think this year, yeah, it was this year, is it's called hard to wet surface. So if you think about a tablet like Tylenol or any painkillers, it dissolves in your gut fluid, right? But basically, Eli Lilly wanted to find out if there is no gravity, then how does the tablet dissolve into a solution like a gut fluid or water? Because in that environment, you could observe that process slowly, and so that you could study that process much better. Okay. And if you get to know that, then you can design the pills so that it will dissolve in your stomach much faster. It wouldn't be nice to get a relief on your excruciating headache in 3 minutes instead of waiting for 30 minutes. So that's the purpose of the experiment.